Selling options has become my favorite trading strategy, and it seems simple, but one bad trade can decimate your profits like that. In fact, my biggest losses happened when I violated one of the 4 golden rules that are essential for selling options safely. Let me be crystal clear. Selling options is dangerous, especially when you sell them naked, meaning you don't own the underlying security. But when done in a safer manner, it can be quite lucrative. Notice, I never said safe because there's always risk in trading. That's exactly why I always review my 4-rule checklist before selling naked options. If you violate even one of them, you are playing with fire. And don't say I didn't warn you. And don't worry, I'll walk you through some real-world examples at the end of this video to help you apply these rules to your own trading. If you're new here, I'm Lance, and I made over $100 million trading on Wall Street. But that P&L did not come without learning some extremely costly lessons. Here's the issue. Most people sell options at the exact worst times. And because of the high win rate embedded into selling options, this often lulls traders into a false sense of security. In my prior options video, which I'll link in the description, I discussed how options influencers wrongfully pitch selling options as a way of making income. I make the analogy that selling options is like writing home insurance. Every year that there isn't a catastrophe, you get more and more confident that what you're doing is genius and can't go wrong. So what do most traders do as a result of that comfort? They get more and more aggressive in how they sell the options, implicitly taking on more and more risk at the exact worst times. And sure enough, boom, the catastrophe finally strikes. It might be a market dislocation or some huge breaking news headline, but inevitably it happens, and this is how option sellers blow up or give back all their gains they earned for weeks, months, and sometimes even years worth. Rule number 1. Only sell options after volatility has blown out, not in no man's land where we are range bound and volatility is calm. That analogy I gave about selling home insurance before the catastrophe is a good one, which is why the best time to sell insurance is actually right after the catastrophe when everyone else has gotten banged up. After the California wildfires in 2025, most insurers stepped away from that market. The few that remained were selling insurance at astronomical rates. That is how we want to operate in the options market. You generally want to step in and sell options after fear has spiked and implied volatility has exploded higher. You want to sell options after the big once-in-a-decade move. It is paradoxical, but true that after the huge blowout move is actually when it is safest to do so, because at sky-high implied volatility is actually offering you more risk cushion. But if you're selling options in sleepy, compressed, range-bound markets, no man's land conditions as I like to call it, when implied volatility is low, you're often collecting pennies in front of a steamroller, and eventually the steamroller arrives. So rule 1 is simple. Sell options during times of extreme moves and extreme sentiment. Never, ever sell options during times of complacency. That is by far the most common mistake people make. Rule number 2. Only sell options at a price you'd actually want to be assigned the underlying. Before you sell calls or puts, ask yourself, would I genuinely be happy being long or short the underlying at this strike? Not, I guess I could survive it, or not, I would hope it bounces. Actually happy and salivating over how good the opportunity would be. A lot of people trick themselves here. They tell themselves, I wouldn't mind owning it, but then the stock gaps down, they're underwater, and suddenly they hate the stock they supposedly wanted. That's why this cannot just be a theoretical exercise. These moves happen. Headlines happen. So one quick trick I like to do is I graph out on the chart where the stock would be net of the premium should I be assigned the position. For example, if I sell a $100 strike put for $5, I will circle on the chart the $95 range and imagine what the move would look like for the stock to get there. Don't worry, we'll be diving into real-world examples at the end, and I'll show you how I apply this visual. Rule number 3. Only sell options for the amount of shares you're truly willing to be assigned. If rule 1 is the most common mistake, then rule 3 is the one that actually blows traders up. A bad trade will not kill you. Being too big when you're wrong will. Losses don't come from one mistake. They come from being wrong and oversized. And with options, that risk is amplified because they don't move in a straight, predictable way. Options are nonlinear, which just means they don't behave like shares. If you're down 10% on stock, you're down 10%. With options, a small move in the stock can lead to a much bigger move in your position. That's because of delta. how much the option moves relative to the stock, and the delta itself changes as the trade goes against you. You might enter thinking you have a certain level of exposure, but as the stock moves, your position can become much more sensitive. You're not just losing, you're losing faster than expected. This is where traders get caught. They size the trade based on a calm assumption, and I'm okay losing X amount, but they're thinking in straight lines. In reality, the position can accelerate against them. A 1 to 2% move in the stock can even turn into a 30 to 50% or more loss on the option very quickly, especially with short-dated contracts. And what once felt like a controlled risk becomes something much bigger. During periods of heightened volatility, there's another risk most traders don't factor in: margin changes. Brokers and exchanges can raise margin requirements quickly, which means the position you thought you could comfortably hold suddenly requires more capital. If you don't have it, you're forced to reduce or close the trade, often at the worst possible time. We saw this clearly during the sharp moves in gold and silver in early 2026 when the CME repeatedly increased margin requirements, forcing traders out of positions as volatility surged. Even if your idea is right longer term, you may not survive the path. Then the psychological side kicks in. When losses grow faster than expected, decision-making breaks down. Instead of following a plan, traders freeze, hope, or panic. The size of the position starts controlling them. And in fast markets, especially with options, there's often no clean exit. There's going to be spreads, liquidity can disappear, and you're going to be forced into closing the position at worse prices. That's why option sizing has to be far more conservative than most people think. The risk isn't just what you plan to lose, it's how quickly things can change and go past that. Smaller size helps you keep in control. Bigger size puts you in a position where one bad move can spiral. Over time, it's not the bad trades that matter. It's whether you were sized correctly when they happened. Here's a practical rule for you. I try to always size so that even if the option premium doubled against me and doubled against me again, I would still be okay with it. That's super conservative. And another rule of thumb, if you are losing sleep or constantly checking quotes nonstop, you are probably oversized. I tell this to every trader I mentor. Always, always, always size your naked options far more conservatively than you imagine. Selling options is all about stacking wins over time and avoiding the big whammy. Survival first, always. On to rule 4. Only sell options with expiries within the window you actually want to see the move occur. Most of the options I sell tend to expire the same week, often with only even just a few days left. The further out you go on expiration, the more you expose yourself to market risk and headline risk. There are totally valid reasons to go far out with certain option expiries. For example, the leveraged ETFs tend to decay in price over time. But when you choose expiry, you're choosing your risk window. And being a short-term trader, I tend to have the strongest views about what will happen over the next day or two, not the next month or two. Additionally, short-dated, out-of-the-money options decay hard when a sharp price move doesn't occur. Essentially, your option expiration should always match the window of your thesis. Don't fall for the trap of thinking you want to go further out to collect more time value. Often that time value comes with more risk. Now let's dive into a couple examples of what I thought were amazing places to sell options premium. First, let's look at TIGR in October 2024. Chinese stocks had been exploding higher due to a huge wave of government stimulus, mixed with a sharp change in investor sentiment. Even large-cap Chinese names were moving 30% or more over the course of a few weeks. Meanwhile, TIGR, which is a Chinese stock brokerage, really exploded higher. On October 7th, the stock gapped up significantly. The equity was worthwhile for shorting, but the options were also incredible. That day, I sold the October 18th, 2024 call option with a $16 strike for almost $2. That is the advantage of waiting for the implied volatility to really blow out. The stock had already nearly quadrupled, yet while the stock was at $14, you could give yourself another $4 cushion. It isn't that the stock couldn't have gone higher. Of course it could have. My point is, though, that the probabilities were far in my favor, and should I have ended up getting assigned short the stock, that would have been a position I wanted anyways. Those that follow my trading course will recognize this as one of my favorite exhaustion gap technical patterns. Remember how in Rule 2 I mentioned that little trick of annotating my options break even on the chart so that I can visually see what the move would look like? Well, look where the $18 break even is on this chart. Yup, for just over a week of exposure, I like selling those calls very much. Another example more recently is in Bitcoin. We spent all of December 2025 and January 2026 in no man's land between $80,000 and $100,000. That is when most traders will see the range and how boring the price action is, and they'll start selling put options because again, we're range bound and boring. What could go wrong? Well, that's precisely where you don't want to do it. Sure enough, we break the bottom of the range and drop over $15,000. As we make a big move lower and implied volatility explodes higher, that is then when we do want to sell the put options. One other bonus tip I'll sneak in here for those who are watching until the end, no matter what you trade, but particularly with options, shorting calls is infinitely more dangerous than selling puts because there's no lower bound of zero. There will be times when stocks make far crazier moves than you've ever imagined. Moves like we've seen in silver, the quantum computing names, and more. With selling calls, you always need to be far more conservative than with selling puts. And that's even true for shorting stocks. If you take away anything from this video, remember to avoid selling options in times of no man's land. To use an appropriate strike, expiration, and contract size. Selling options is incredibly dangerous because people get complacent by their high win rate. So no matter what, all normal risk management rules still apply. You do not want to be averaging into a losing position. You want to follow your normal loss limits, and you never want to get too concentrated. You need to always remember that the margin utilized once you get assigned can be far higher than you expect, especially to the upside. High win rate means nothing if your losers are fatal. Break these rules and eventually you will pay the price. I know I sure have over the years. Follow them and you give yourself a shot at longevity. And in this business, longevity is everything. If you found this knowledge valuable, hit that subscribe button, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.